Can't believe it's Thursday again, but Thursday it is. Hi, everybody. I'm Russ Kane. This is the ABC of CBD, a show which has taken on a life of its own, and unbelievably, this is a major milestone for us. This is week number 50. Week 50, and they said it wouldn't last.
Those poppers, should have bought some champagne.
No. So week 52, you and I are going to do something special because it'll be a proper year.
Exactly.
We'll do that. It'd be a full year. That's fantastic. As I said, I'm really just a passenger here. I say that every week, but I mean it. It's true. It's all down to Ollie Mammon, an extraordinary man, the hunk of hemp, the count of cannabinoid, Ollie Mammon, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey guys, thank you so much to everyone who's joined us over the last 50 weeks. You're incredible. Thank you for giving us a platform, and thank you for giving us thank you for listening to the voices which we've shared and the stories that we've shared. And one thing I just want to say before we bring in the host and before we bring in the guest and the sponsor and everything, like the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s, they're like fundamental to all education. It's like one of the first things we learn, and I really do. I hope that all of our listeners have kind of felt that we've kind of delivered almost the fundamentals of this industry to them over the last 50 weeks. And we hope that the ABC of CBD has been as fundamental to you as the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. And I just want to throw it out there and say, for all of you who have joined us, who have listened, who we've influenced in order to go and create your own shows, because we know we've done a lot of it with you other podcasters out there. We've convinced you guys to go and do that. For all of you who are kind of getting involved in this quest of education in the cannabis industry, and for all of you who have supported us on our quest and our search for more education, thank you so much. Without all of the viewers and without all of the guests, there wouldn't be a show. It would just be me sitting in my lab talking to Russ. So thank you so much for everything you guys have done for us.
I've had worse evenings.
No, I know, but then it would just be
like the world's worst thing.
It wouldn't be the world's worst thing, but it would just be a conversation. It was more of a compliment to them than an insult to you, but somehow you've made it very personal towards you.
Ollie, it's all about me. Don't you know that by now?
It's all about Russ.
It's all about me.
Bloody gorgeous.
Everything. So even William Shatner going into space.
My little Russ, gotta love him. Anyway, no, but seriously, Russ, thank you so much for giving us this platform.
Mandatory.
Thank you for everything you've done for the UK cannabis industry as well, and thank you for giving so many voices a platform. I know that you haven't agreed with everything that's been said on the show, but I really appreciate you coming on this journey with us. So thank you for the last 50 weeks, Russ. Really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely, it's completely my pleasure. Who knew it would last?
Who knew it would last?
Thrilled it did.
Still
and
might not.
And a big thank you to Sinner, who produces the show. Thanks, Sinner. You never see him. We never hear from him. He is a man of mystery, but he's always lurking behind the scenes. So thanks, Sinner. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Sinner, you're a superstar. So before we bring on our guest and we move on with the show, let's play a quick word from our sponsor, and then we shall get the ball rolling. I'm sure you've heard before that good quality CBD needs to be really, really expensive. This is the new view of CBD. A product created by users for users. A product at an affordable price, available everywhere, at any time, at the simple click of a button. Just CBD and MCT oil. No additives, no preservatives, and no flavor enhancers. It's a simple subscription-based service. The cleanest possible CBD delivered to your door for the lowest possible price. Your product, your rights, for the lowest possible price.
Catchy little tune, that, isn't it? It's like a real earworm. It's a real earworm, that thing.
Love it.
I should cocoa.
Shall we do this? Shall we do this?
Do it. Let's do that.
Our special guest today is a gentleman by the name of Tim Henley. Those of you in the community who know him, know him. Those of you who don't know him, it's very important you see who he is, because he's a bit of a guide and a very knowledgeable man, and education is so important to him. He actually runs a company called Access Canna, which we're going to move on to in a bit. But like basically, if anyone doesn't know Tim, I suggest you listen to today's episode, because the guy's incredible and he is fundamental to our, you could call it, new blossoming industry. So it's episode 50 today. Title of the show is Education Before Access. As the concept of education continues to be on the tip of everybody's tongue in the cannabis industry, the ABC of CBD continues discussions surrounding this topic and how vital it is for the flourishing success of this vast new open space. Over the last few weeks, we've been joined by educators from across the cannabis space, focusing on bringing clarity to those who need it and direction to those who are lost. Leading market educators are putting on a lot of effort into their respective corners. Leading market educators.
Still rolling.
Yeah, sorry. So cut, retake.
All right, love. We got that for safety. And Ollie,
action. Try get it right this time. Leading market educators are putting a lot of effort into their respective corners of the industry. From science to sport and access to consumption, many potential consumers feel overwhelmed, and therefore entry into this new world of cannabis is daunting. One thing we've heard from most of our recent guests is the lack of education, understanding, and true information surrounding cannabis, its functions, and its applications is damaging to the potential growth of this industry. The older generation, still plagued with last century's definitions, ideals, values, and perspectives, have been less supportive of this industry. And who can blame them? It's very difficult to expect people to drop everything they know and just accept a brand new normal. One of the biggest issues, in my opinion, is the younger generations are trying to educate and influence the older generations. Education doesn't usually travel this way. Knowledge is usually passed down, and it's very rarely passed up. Wisdom usually comes with grey behind the ears, but in the case of the world of cannabis, change is coming from the bottom. Many of the educators are a lot younger than those they are educating, and this does actually cause issues. Our guest today doesn't have this issue. He's trying to educate and influence his counterparts, his generation, those who are most likely to benefit from cannabinoids. Tim Henley is an outspoken advocate who has been heavily involved in the push for cannabis education and medical access in the UK. Having worked with cannabis-focused media, trade organizations, medical cannabis patient education systems, and advocacy systems in the UK, he's worked alongside some leading industry experts on new innovative forms of education and knowledge sharing, trying to nurture a system we can all be proud of. He is a voice of reason, a point of direction for many, many lost people, and a true light in an industry that sometimes seems dark and blurry. So let's welcome on Tim.
Hello, and thank you very much. That was a hell of an intro. Thank you.
Not bad, right? It's all down to you now. That's why I do is I give my great
I'll be honest,
intros.
Tim, it was more of a book. It was equivalent to the James Bond No Time to Die running length. About the same.
Well,
very little to tell between the two.
So,
are you guys taking the piss out of me? Is that what's happening?
Basically, yeah, sure, of course we are.
That's it. So, like the elders are bullying the youngers. That's what happens on today's show. No, I just want to make sure that this is what I've got myself in for this evening. I've got myself in for an evening of being bullied
me
by
and my
senior
new
citizens.
best friend Tim.
right.
Tim and I go way back. We've known each other since 8 minutes now. We've known each other.
Indeed.
That is quite some time.
It's a long time. It's
a long time. All the fun we've had.
I've got so many comments I'm not going to drop.
Tim?
Well, let me just kind of expand on some of what Ollie's said. And I need to kind of highlight where my passion and my desire is in this industry. It's the industry is arriving. There's no question about that. CBD, I recommend the Tincture Club. You see, I've got the actual product and it's a great product. So it is really good. CBD made the first inroads into this kind of the way that people saw cannabis. And I think that initially, not many people knew CBD came from cannabis. And if I give you a bit of my backstory, that will kind of highlight where this all comes from. So I was a network administrator back in 2016. I was in IT. I'm old, so I realized that Google and Microsoft and all the rest of them were taking everything to the cloud, and my career path was going to be limited. At that particular point in time, my nephew started a PhD at Aston University. It turned out that PhD was investigating the efficacy of CBD in epilepsy. It also turns out that that PhD was sponsored by GW Pharma. I had no idea what GW Pharma was, what CBD was, but it came at a point in my life where I was looking for change, and that change was a revolution, a real revolution, and a revelation. So it followed on from there, that I then found out what CBD was. It was a cannabinoid, came from a cannabis plant. I then found out about GW Pharma, who had Sativex, which is a market authorized medication. Now, these points are really interesting. I now work for Access Canna. So Access Canna is a medical cannabis advocacy agency. So what we do is we're trying to get more people interested in medical cannabis. As Ollie has rightly said, there is a lot of a lot of people know a lot of things, and a lot of people know nothing at all about cannabis. And there is a huge swathe of the population in the middle that get most of their information from the likes of the Daily Mail and believe everything they read about it. And that is part of the fake news agenda that has been going on for cannabis forever and a day. I'm here to kind of advocate. There is a lot of science now being generated that is actually showing you there is so much medical potential. We have to recognize cannabis has been around for nigh on 10,000 years. It has been used as a medicine for all of that 10,000 years, apart from the last 100 years where it was decried as a drug that was detrimental to society. But there have been real advocates who have challenged that. And my particular favorite is a scientist called Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan used to work for NASA. He wrote under the pseudonym Mr. X, and he was actually the person who decided to turn around the Viking satellite, take a picture of the Earth, called it the pale blue dot, and showed our relevance in the universe. He actually said that cannabis made societies better. I fully agree with him. What I kind of see now is that we need a different way of utilizing cannabis in society. So up until now, it's all been under the radar, it's been illegal, but the change in November 2018 made medical cannabis legal. Now, that was a revolution. For a whole year, 2019, there were no prescriptions really issued. The NHS has issued, well, at best, 10, as we currently see.
Tim, let me slow you down quickly because we're moving ahead. I wanted to kind of run back to something. So you mentioned your nephew, and you mentioned that your nephew was doing this PhD study. When was that? What year was that in?
Started 2017, I believe, 2016, 2017.
So you've been involved in the industry for about 4 years now.
Absolutely.
What was your first interaction with cannabis? Because it wasn't your first interaction with cannabis, was it?
No, when I was at university, I interacted with cannabis. But back then, cannabis was primarily hashish.
I think it's interesting that you heard something from your nephew. You heard what your nephew was doing, and you decided to dive, headfirst into life. When I started in this industry 5-6 years ago, and I started making products, and I told my uncles and aunties that I was dealing with cannabinoids now, they banned me from seeing the rest of the family. So I always had a different reaction to what you had. You kind of looked at your nephew, was like, "Oh, cool, this sounds great." Whereas my family looked at me, I was like, "All right, get away from my kids, you drug dealer." So we had a slightly different experience of that. I was just curious, how did your nephew get you to, how did your nephew phrase it to you? Or did anyone in your family react negatively to your nephew? But I know you reacted positively. You kind of saw it as a tunnel opening up, out of this, into a new world which you needed. Did anyone else in your family show him negativity when he started researching cannabinoids?
No, nobody showed him negativity because nobody really understood it at the time. But my brother is a professor of neuroscience at Bristol University, and when I discussed that I was starting to get into the cannabis industry, so what happened?
Is that his son, by the way?
Yeah, absolutely. When Ben started his PhD, I thought, this is really interesting. And I started looking into CBD and then found you could import it from the USA. So I did. We set up a business. We started selling it. But then Google stopped AdWords and PayPal stopped taking payments. And at that point, there was an organization forming called the Cannabis Trades Association, and I was a founding director of that. And that was about creating an industry. Obviously, there were a lot of companies around at the time that were looking at CBD and they were interested, but the regulators were starting to say, hold on, you companies are making medical claims. You cannot do that. You need marketing authorization. That is phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 studies before you can be issued a marketing authorization. That is what GW Pharma paid for to get Sativex and Epidiolex market authorized as medications. They are the only licensed cannabis medications in the country at the moment. And they're licensed for very specific conditions. So you can utilize them in medicine off authorizations, but they are the only market authorized, and they are very limited in what you can actually, a doctor can prescribe them for. But when they change a regulation for medical cannabis, it is now available as what is called a specials medication. So that means a doctor, and the regulation states that it is a GMC, General Medical Council registered consultant. So when you go to a hospital, you see a junior doctor. The one above those are the consultants. They are the only doctors you can actually get prescribed medical cannabis from. So that's the current situation that we have.
It's I just don't know whether
it is. So moving on from that,
Yeah.
the whole kind of proposition about medical cannabis has become, what is the option to get medical cannabis? So that is the whole kind of thing moving forward, is effectively, sorry, that was my phone. I do
That's
apologize.
a fancy phone ring you got there.
I was just thinking, I felt like we're going into a nightclub. Literally, I thought someone had just drugged me and I was about to go into a trip. I was like, literally, what is happening? Is everyone else hearing that too? I'm okay. I'm still
hearing
okay.
what, Ollie? Hearing what exactly?
Not nice.
Well,
that's not
exactly.
Nice. That's not nice. That's mean. That's mean behavior.
Mm.
Before we move on, Tim, and before we start talking about the medical system, I kind of want to touch more on this. So 4 years ago, your nephew starts working. Okay, he starts researching.
Yeah.
There's got to be something deeper that made you jump into the deep end, that made you want to start setting up cannabis trade associations, that made you want to start importing product. There's got to be something, because there are a lot of, I'm not going to say, there are a lot of 56-year-old men out there who are not involved in the cannabis industry, who needed something to do, who heard that everyone else was getting involved, and they still took a back foot and said, I don't want to get involved in this space. Like, I'm sure that when you got involved in this space, some of your counterparts around you, I'm sure they gave you a little bit of a weird look, that stink eye of, why are you doing this? So I'm just saying, like, I want to talk about that a little bit, because, it's the whole idea is coming from your generation. It's a lot more there's a lot more stigma, a lot more negative stigma. Almost the education of past years sits with your generation a hell of a lot more than it sits with mine. And before we start talking about, like the medical system and, the rules and all of that stuff, I kind of want to have a little bit of a personal conversation about you, Tim, and why or how or why you decided to grab the torch and run with it, and what makes you different from everyone else out there. Therefore, why did you run with it and no one else did? Do you think that's important?
Okay, I'll tell you exactly.
Sorry for yelling. I felt like I just yelled at you.
Sorry. That's all right. No problem at all. I'll tell you why.
Yelled at all.
I could yell. Should I yell? Tell me, goddammit. No, but seriously, sorry, I'll stop.
No, absolutely. I think it is important, but it's
Tim, don't encourage him to shout.
Well, no, I do think it's important because I'll tell you exactly why. At the time this is happening, my mother is developing Alzheimer's. So she's got vascular dementia. She's got Alzheimer's. She's managed to live on her own since my dad died, but things are changing. And she wouldn't be able to live on her own. So we took the decision that I would go and live with my mom and see how it went. At that point, I started to do research on cannabis because I was intrigued with what Ben was doing. And I was inspired to find out more information. Here's a much maligned plant. All I know about cannabis is kind of what Cheech and Chong did. As I said, at university, I was exposed to it when it was one of those things. And you just smoked a joint. I had some great times on it at university, but it was illegal.
Hilarious.
So I kind of left it behind, and I was quite happy drinking alcohol and moving forward on those things and just live life. And then suddenly I find out, hold on, CBD is actually really good for neuroprotection. And then it starts to kind of, the more research you did, I watched a lot of green flower media stuff. All of this came from America at that point in time. It was out of the USA. It was based in Colorado. That's where the real center of change was. And you've got all of these, this freely available information. You could research it, you could find out more. I had no idea that the cannabis plant generates 97 cannabinoids. The UK government recognizes 97 individual cannabinoids. Of those, only 17 are controlled drugs. So they're basically all the THCs. Interestingly enough, CBN is controlled. Now, CBN is the very cannabinoid that will put you to sleep. You compare CBN to any medication that you are given for insomnia, and its safety profile is off the scale. Insomnia medications, and there are doctors that have openly stated this, will put you in a grave if you use them consistently.
Is that for real? Is that for real?
Absolutely.
Tim? Because you've struck on two things. Well, Ollie knows where I'm going to go, but you wouldn't, because joking aside, we've never met before. Number one, my mum had Alzheimer's for 16 years. So I'm fascinated to know where this conversation is going to go, because it was just a nightmare. It was horrible. And two, Ollie knows that I have terrible insomnia. I don't get to sleep before 3 or 4 every morning. And Ollie kindly sent me some stuff over ages ago when we started working together. And jolly interesting it is too. Jolly interesting.
So he's completely right about CBN. CBN is you could call it another cannabinoid inside of the plant. It's actually it comes after CBD and after THC. It's like a degraded cannabinoid, so it takes a bit of time to create. But he's completely bang on the money. It's one of the best sleep inducers on the planet, and the after effects. There's no grogginess because it's not a chemically induced. It's not a chemically induced false sleep. It really does release compounds in your brain, and it works with those compounds in your brain to increase melatonin production and increase serotonin and increase all those random molecules which encourage sleep. The problem is it's controlled in the UK, so our work with it is extremely limited. However, in America, the surgeons there's been a massive surge in CBN usage, and one of the highest selling products across the United States now is bonded CBN with melatonin. It used to be melatonin was the go to sleep product. Now CBN is kind of nudged in, and they work symbiotically. They work really well together symbiotically. They're fantastic, and it's incredible how one cannabinoid out of this 90 has that potent effect, and then you have other cannabinoids which are also so much more unique. But once again, I don't really want to go into. I want to continue the Alzheimer's conversation because that's important. If that's okay, that's okay, Tim.
No, absolutely, because
it's so important. Because also we haven't had this conversation yet on the show. It's not. I haven't got any of this stuff in my notes, but I would rather spend time talking about that. If that's okay,
we can go wherever you want. And I think for me, and obviously for Russ, this has real kind of instance. My mother's still in her home.
Totally.
She has
totally, Tim.
She has no understanding of who I am now. I need to be careful about what I say, but how? Let's say it. So I'm looking after my mom.
Yep.
I've just got into CBD. Ben's researching CBD, and I'm saying this is 2017. This is before medical cannabis is legal. And I'm saying, look, I'm getting into this industry. I think I can really help mom. I've got a brother and a sister. And I said, can we try cannabis? What do you think? my brother is Mr. Pharmaceutical. He is a professor. He is kind of all of his working life has been working in the kind of research for pharmaceutical products. And he said, no, you can't. It's illegal. What are you talking about, you stupid idiot? So I said, fine, fair enough. I'm outvoted. That was it. I to this day, I still kind of think I should have argued my case more potently. Following on from that, and this,
can I jump in? Can I
just finish this, because I think this has real relevance.
Okay. Yeah.
We now work with a company in San Diego, in California, with a lady called Elizabeth Mack, who is a registered nurse. She has a training company called Holistic Caring. We've discussed this at length. She has a mother who had Alzheimer's. Hers is 5 years younger than my mother. So you cannot extrapolate, but she used cannabinoids with her mother, and her mother is still capable of. Now, you cannot from individual cases say, well, there you are, this proves it works. Absolutely not. I am not saying that. What I am saying is that if we'd have done a trial, if, as there are now, there are trials, observational trials, clinical trials, care homes, they are starting to see that what happens in North America can be replicated here. There is the legal framework to make it happen. This is the real change, and this has real potential.
Well, with
What
dementia,
what I was going to ask is this, Tim. Did it cross your mind that despite your brother misgivings, you thought, you know what, Mom is in such a bad way, why don't I do this, because it can't get much worse?
Did it cross
That's a
my
very-
mind?
I hope you don't mind.
I reckon the start of the journey made it hard, right? I reckon if you were here, if that happened now, Tim, you would have been like,
we're on it.
You know, like F you, bro. Okay,
Yeah.
you know what? Sue me. That's what I'd say. Like, you know what I mean? And you would go for it.
If I could wind back, Mum died about 4 years ago. But we had 16 years of this, and it was shocking. And you, as you said, she didn't have a clue who I was for the last 2+ years. It was ghastly. And I couldn't bear it. It's like watching somebody. That's why I dedicated a week on Men's Radio Station just to dementia and Alzheimer's, because it's not sexy. People don't talk about it. It doesn't get enough publicity. Had I known now, if I could rewind and, and I'd met Ollie back then, I would have been, without doubt, trying everything to help Mum.
Do you remember we had Dr.
Pitiful.
Sorry. Do you remember we had Dr. Rebecca Moore on the show?
Sure.
So Dr. Rebecca Moore, so she didn't actually mention dementia and she didn't mention Alzheimer's, but what she did say is about how cannabis has never, like cannabis has been completely mislabeled as damaging the brain. And fact of the matter is I'm pretty sure that over the next few years, doctors like Rebecca Moore and people like the woman you just mentioned in America will actually have the ability to put a step forward and be like, you know what? It's not that it doesn't damage you, it probably will actually save you. Because also it's, the anti-anxiety effects, the general analgesic, the general calming, like the whole idea is people with dementia are given a hell of a lot of drugs in order to suppress all the emotions which are going crazy, not the dementia. So it's almost like the dementia is the only thing they're not pilled up for. Everything else is what they're pilled up for, and they're given natural herbs and all of these random concoctions to try and keep them calm, because unfortunately, when you don't know what's going on and you're in a place of you're in a strange place, it only, it triggers, it's only going to create worse triggers. Yeah. And I just remember Rebecca Moore's words when she came on, she basically slammed the door on mental health and cannabis having a link. And it's so important for more doctors who are on the pro-cannabis side or who have seen pro-cannabis results to come forward. So people like Tim's mum, Russ's mum, shouldn't have to suffer, even if it doesn't cure them, but it alleviates their suffering. I mean, that's got to mean something, right? It's got to mean it's got to mean something. And it's all about the education. Sorry, it's got quite emotional, this show. I'm really sorry, guys. I do apologize. I'm sorry to both of you.
Can I just kind of highlight some things? And this kind of feeds into everything that we're talking about. So I don't know whether you can see this, but oh no, you won't see that.
No,
but effectively,
we can't.
These are slides. So those are slides from the Royal Society of Medicine. There was a whole day of events on medical cannabis this Monday, actually, at the Royal Society of Medicine. Remembering I said that they need to be GMC registered consultants who can prescribe cannabis. The regulators were there. NICE, National Institute of Clinical Excellence, the people who actually specify what is acceptable for the NHS to prescribe, needs to have a value for money label on it. The MHRA, the Medicines Healthcare Regulatory Agency, the people who license medicines. So they're there. They're seeing case study after case study where people have been on pharmaceuticals and they have switched because the only way you can get medical cannabis, and Russ, if you've been to the doctor and you have had 2 treatment plans put in place for your sleep, then you can try medical cannabis. It's only available really as private medicine at the moment, but CBN is one of the things that is really effective. And that is it is this getting out, educating people that medical cannabis is now legal. There is no question. It is absolutely legal.
I got to jump into because because it kind of flies. What you're saying is great, but it's kind of, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I'm picking up the wrong information. It's flying against everything. Why is it that our guests over the last 50 years have struggled, especially with their little babies and their little kids? I don't get this.
I can answer this.
Can you? Am I being thick? But I think people watching are thinking.
So it's very important. It's very important to understand that every medical disorder, in the UK is almost governed by its own board. So you have the oncologists who govern cancer. You have the neurologists who cover brain issues. You have the
urologists who cover everything.
Yeah, so you have all these different sectors. Now, when it comes to, let's say, childhood epilepsy, they're governed by the BPNA, the British Pediatric Neurological Association.
Okay.
Now, the BPNA have put this red mark on cannabis. But let's say when you have other forms of cannabis consumption, for example, for pain or for sleep deprivation, for end of life, for this or for that, they're governed by other organizations. These other organizations dealing predominantly with adults seem to be a lot more lenient with the rules surrounding drug consumption. The same is with the other drugs. It's very easy for an adult to get oxy after hurting his back. A child can't get oxy. So it's oxycodone. So it's the same thing, like medicines are very much prescribed based on the groups they're being prescribed to. And the way the laws are being governed is also relatively, you could call it, it's a relatively controlled to smaller, smaller organizations within the medical system.
There's actually something to add into that.
Of course, add away. Be the expert.
So the very essence of why medical cannabis was legalized was Alfie Dingley, Billy Caldwell. These were epileptic children who Savage Javid said, right, we're gonna change this. We are going to allow people to have prescriptions for medical cannabis because we see how effective it is for the children with epilepsy. This is how it all started in the USA as well, with Charlotte Fig and Charlotte's Web oil. Now, what has subsequently happened is that a lot of pediatric neurologists, we come back to the GMC and the specialist doctors, they can only prescribe in their specialty, just as Ollie has said. What's happened is that one of these doctors was reported to the GMC. Now, you can imagine, I'm a consultant. I'm a highly paid professional consultant in the NHS. I'm about to lose my license to practice medicine if this goes south. Now, you kind of put the brakes on at that point and you say, well, this isn't market authorized medication. This is specials. I'm just going to take a step back here. So currently, there is one doctor, pediatric doctor in this country who will prescribe for epileptic children. However, that case where the doctor was reported to the GMC have ruled no case to answer, did everything correctly, and the GMC have sanctioned or censured the BNPA, whichever it is, and said, actually, you're being way too restrictive on this because the real world evidence is proving that there is real value here. And we can see that because the way that healthcare economics work is, if I'm saving you a whole visit to hospitals month after month because you're having seizures by giving you a mixture of CBD and potentially THC, but all the other kind of minor cannabinoids and terpenes that make up the plant, the full plant extraction. And for epilepsy, it is now determined that it does need to be a full plant extraction because the entourage effect, which I know you've discussed, has real bearing on this. Then for that particular thing, it really works. It doesn't work for everyone. And this is one of the things. Medical cannabis, everybody's endocannabinoid system is uniquely different. It's like a fingerprint. So this is why strains. Now, you may not have had any guests that have been able to do this. And I will show you my MedCan ID card. That is not a legal document, but it connects to all of my prescriptions. So those are legal documents. I am a legally prescribed medical cannabis patient in this country for back pain. So this is medical cannabis that you get. Now, there you go.
Left, higher, higher.
Burning the bolts.
It's like the golden shot.
Legal.
Left a bit. Burning the bolt.
Completely legal.
Could you
It's
put that up again?
legal.
Because I've not,
Here, hold it like that. Hold it in front of your face
Hold
like
it,
that.
hold it.
There we go.
Wow. So what am I looking at?
You are
Explain to
looking,
everybody.
this is NG Serenity. This is NG Serenity. Northern Green Canada comes from a company in Canada.
Right.
So this is Serenity. Its equivalent street name would be Gorilla Glue number 4. So, and I will tell you exactly what the label tells me. This has 22% THC and less than 1% CBD. To use medical cannabis, you have to use a vaporizer. So this is a PAX. One of my previous jobs in the cannabis industry was I worked for one of the big vaporizer companies out of Canada.
Oh.
So I understand all about vaporizers. So effectively, with vaporizers, you can set the temperature and it heats up the flower. You use a grinder, you break it up into little bits. You put it in the
like a kitchen grind. I'm serious. Like a
yeah, absolutely. Do you want the whole thing? So the whole thing is, here's a grinder.
Let's do this.
Yeah,
it's all right, Ollie, because I don't. I've not seen this. What do I know?
No, it hasn't actually been done yet on the show. So I'm sweating a little bit, thinking, "Oh my god, is this all right?" But actually, no, it's absolutely fine. You're legal. Do this. This is great.
I am legal.
This is absolutely legal.
He's legal. He's not breaking any laws.
No, he's not. This is brilliant.
That's it.
But let me explain something. This is really, really important because when I see my consultant who prescribes, and mine is for back pain, right. I'm old, I've got a dodgy shoulder, I've got a dodgy back, I'm 6'2", and I've got bad posture. And I was on naproxen, I was on cocoa.
By the way, can I just say, if you're going to go on Tinder, don't put that as your profile. Because frankly,
probably not going to go on Tinder.
You wonder why everyone's swiping.
Apparently, no one's using Tinder anymore. Everyone's using this new one called Bumble. Just to let everyone know, it's meant to be the great. It's meant to be the great app. Just to throw it out there in case you're in the dating game.
So anyway, effectively, what you do with your cannabis is you grind it up. Now, this is one way of using medical cannabis. Get
high for us, Tim. Smoke. You're allowed to.
I don't want him to do that because he's so articulate. I don't want him to talk about the colours in Ichiku Park. All right, this arrives in the post or whatever it arrives in, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's precisely it. So this is the whole process. So let's use you, Russ, as an example. Let's assume you are really at your wit's end about getting to sleep.
No, I can make it even easier because I can parallel with you. I had a huge car crash 23 years ago, had to learn to walk again. And when my back goes, I am completely screwed when I say screwed, I'm crippled, like literally crippled. I can't move.
He's standing up right now because he can't sit down. He's got this standing desk.
I do all the shows. I do all my work standing up at a standing desk, and it has been great, by the way. I can't recommend them highly enough. And thanks to
You
Larry
see,
Vine.
my desk is a standing desk as well, and I have to go up and down. Some part of the day I'm standing up, part of it I'm sitting down.
Well, I stand up. This is me. So right, so let's just say you and I, we've got bad backs. Let's just make it simple. Forget the sleep thing.
As long as you've been to a GP and it's in your medical records, you can now get a medical cannabis prescription. It is private medicine. It is not yet available on the NHS in any scale because it's NICE, the National Institute of Clinical Excellence, they say that it is not proven yet.
I want to do it in baby steps. I know this is kind of boring to you, but for people watching and listening all over the place,
this is brilliant.
It's like, so I go to the doctor, I go, look, doc, and I don't want to take any more paracetamol. I don't want to take what about and he goes, either get out, or does he say, yes, okay?
My doctor, I had exactly that conversation. My doctor said it's only available for epileptic children. And I said, don't think you're actually right there. And at that point, she said, well, if you want to go and try it, go and try it. So I did. And I went for one clinic. So this is why I actually started Access Canada. The reason I started was I went to 2 clinics. They both turned me down. Why? Because I hadn't tried an opioid medication. I said, I'm not going near an opioid medication. I don't want that. Why do you want that? So I hadn't had. This is in the early days of medical cannabis. Remembering the everybody's felt their way. It has been fingertips.
Can I just want to endorse what Tim is. I bet this is a surprise to Ollie. I want to endorse what you're saying, Tim, because when it was really bad, they put me on tramadol. You're only meant to be on tramadol. Within 3 days, I was hooked. It was disgusting. I was really scared, and I don't do any drugs. I'm not moral. It's just my decision. I don't care what other people do. I don't touch them. And blooming tramadol, wow, addictive as hell. And I got myself off them. I've never had them since.
Well, you're lucky. You're lucky. A lot of people do get addicted to those opioids.
Tim,
you must have had opioids at some moment in your life, Tim.
I was hooked. In 3 days.
I know people.
Shocked.
I know a lot of people who have fallen to that.
Very dangerous.
I know a lot of people who have fallen to that.
Very,
Carry on, though, Tim.
dangerous.
You're incredible.
And Russ, you've hit the nail on the head. This is exactly why in the USA, medical cannabis has swept the board across all of the states. Even Oklahoma, one of the most conservative states in the USA, has a policy of, okay, you want medical cannabis, you go to a doctor. Now, medical cannabis is, and for me, medical cannabis is about responsible use cannabis. It is about using it responsibly to optimize your health, to live the best life you can. And that to me is what medical cannabis is about. It isn't about anything else. And we could go on about the kind of sustainability issues of the cannabis industry.
No, I want you to stick on this. I want you to stick on this, Tim. We'll bring you back. We'll bring you back on another day. But this is so important. And like, no one's done this yet. No one's done over 50 shows what you were doing before. Like, no one's done this. I kind of want it to continue. I don't want it to stop.
The deal is that realistically, the only reasons that somebody is going to have a red flag about prescribing you cannabis is that you have a tendency to psychosis or schizophrenia or a family history. You have potential heart issues or liver, and that's because of the way that cannabis is metabolized. We're using flower, so flower is fast onset. It means as soon as I hit that vaporizer, I won't actually be talking about Ichikuku Park, but I'll probably be talking about quantum physics or something really interesting like that. And the reason for that is because that's where I go when I kind of need to escape from things. And that is just the way it is, as far as I'm concerned. The way medical cannabis works is it takes your mind away from the background pain that you have. Now, you can have a tincture very similar to Ollie's product, but because it is created in an EU GMP certified lab and it is created as a medicine, it can then enter the medical establishment. And from that point, you can use other cannabinoids in it.
But also, there's THC and stuff like that. The issue is with oils take a slightly longer time to absorb. They take about 90 minutes to 120 minutes to absorb, whereas smoking usually takes between 30 seconds and 15 minutes to absorb. So it's a different, you have a much faster response time, which is, I assume, why you vape, Tim, because considering you suffer from pain, you need an instantaneous relief as and when you get to that point.
Damn straight you do. Oh,
exactly.
God, damn
the other thing is,
convince Russ to get a cannabis license. You've got 15 minutes to convince Russ to get a prescription. This is your job. Go.
No, it's not his job. It's
his job.
I've got enough going on in my life at the moment.
It's literally his job. Literally, what Tim does for a living is convince people to get cannabis. Even say no, Russ.
So
you've done a job on that, Ollie Mammons.
Makes no difference. I want you to get a legal prescription. I want you putting out your vaporizer in your little silver bag next week, and I want you hitting up on the show. That's what I want. Go on.
So not going to happen. But anyway.
So let me ask you, Russ. I know this is my turn to question you now. I'm going to do my job. What is stopping you?
Fear. Shut up, Ollie Mammon.
Fear.
Probably, yeah, because I'm thinking, I'm okay. I'm thinking I'm kind of okay, and
but you still can't get to sleep until 2 or 3 in the morning.
Oh, 2 o'clock would be good. I don't normally go to. I don't know. I tell you why it takes me that long to unwind. I've just got into this very bad pattern, especially since lockdown, the last 19 months, and that's when I do a lot of research. I want loads and loads of YouTube documentaries. That's what I do. Then I look at the time and I think, oh my God, it's 3:30. I go to bed.
Okay.
And that's nice. And then I wonder why I'm tired. I wonder why I'm tired.
I think that one of the things that is really important is, at the moment, you've still got this thing, look, it's a drug. I'm not comfortable with the drug. Do you know what makes it a drug? 325 people that sit in Parliament. That is the very nature of what a drug is in this country. That is a majority, a parliamentary majority. Those 325 people, they could make coffee a drug. Well, coffee is a drug, but they could make it a controlled drug tomorrow. My wife has a very different reaction to coffee than I do. It will put her on the roof. Me, I can drink it by the bucket.
It does nothing for me. And I only drink espresso. I mean, this is the weird thing. I drink espresso like it's water. Nothing. Absolutely zero.
You see, now this actually is indications that, and I know you spoke about this with you hinted at with Mary Biles and things. There are now the DNA tests that will start to tell you what your cannabinoid deficiency are. There is a syndrome called endocannabinoid deficiency. This is one of the things.
Veronica actually mentioned that. If you look back on the notes, I think Veronica Curran, I think she mentioned endocannabinoid, didn't she? If you look back on the there was a question which came up before about it being endocannabinoid deficiency about 20 minutes ago.
Fibromyalgia. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. And this is really becoming. I mean, research into the endocannabinoid system is really only just entering. I told you about my brother, Professor. That's what he does. He researches the endocannabinoid system. But what he'd do is he'd say, right, well, I'll make you a pill that will boost your anandamide and 2-AG. Those are your endocannabinoids. That's what your body makes. Those are in breast milk. That's how important they are to the mammalian body. They are in the breast milk that infants have. They are produced by the body automatically. The endocannabinoid system is the most fascinating system. It is by far the biggest amount of receptors in the body, and they're called they're G protein coupled receptors, and they've got this thing. So the receptors, those work, CB1, CB2 receptors. CB1 are predominantly in the brain, CB2 are predominantly through the body. They work with endocannabinoids. Those endocannabinoids are anandamide, which is Sanskrit for the bliss molecule that makes you happy, and 2-AG. 2-AG, they interact with these, but they're also enzymes that break down those cannabinoids. So the way the body actually works, the way the endocannabinoid system actually works is, if you're utilizing phytocannabinoids, cannabis, then it will adjust itself, and you have to find the sweet spot, the balance, where all of this comes together. So it's not like just taking a pill, it is finding the sweet spot for you. That is why when it's called titration, you start slow. You don't want that. Your kind of thing, Russ, was not quite sure I'm going to be comfortable with this. That's why
Yeah.
you start
Yeah,
slow
I'd say,
and
yeah.
you go low. You do not go, right, well, I'm going to whack this down. You may remember Jon Snow on the whole kind of Channel 4 cannabis thing, where they gave him one of these, and they said, here you are, here's a balloon full of cannabis, high strength, THC, the same stuff as this. They gave
What is
the
that? Looks like a
balloon.
coffee pot. What is
It's a
that?
That's a
vaporizer.
volcano vaporizer. So
Okay.
that and that do the same job.
Oh, I see.
What
Although
it
one,
does-
fits better in your pocket. Let's be honest, Tim.
So the idea is the UK government has banned combustion when it comes to consumption of cannabis. So you're not allowed to actually burn it. So the whole idea is like they see burning, they see combustion as counterintuitive and causing more harm than good. So the UK government has restricted the forms of consumption which patients are allowed to consume. However, vaporizing and smoking does target the same receptors, and vaporizing theoretically enables your body to have a less, you could call it, a more specific, more nurtured dose. That's basically it. As opposed to getting all of the other plant matter, you're only getting the cannabinoids. So it's a little bit more.
When I'm walking the dog, which I do every day, and every 100 yards I am hit back by the smell of dope or skunk or whatever the hell it is, but it's bloody strong. I mean, it's ludicrous around where I live. Okay, they are presumably burning it. They're not vaping it.
It's in a joint. It's a traditional way. But we're in the 21st century. That's Cheech and Chong 1960s stuff. We're past that. This is science.
I still smoke joints.
Medicine.
I'm still combustion.
Yeah, but you've got a ponytail. You're a hippie. You're a crazy
I am a hippie. I am a capitalist hippie. That is what I am.
Do you smoke it with tobacco?
Yeah, I'm like the worst.
You're still addicted to the tobacco.
Yeah, and I also smoke cigarettes. I'm like the worst. I really am. I'm the worst person in the world. But then also bear in mind that I don't consume broad spectrum cannabis, full spectrum cannabis for medicinal reasons. I consume like oils and other products which I consume for my medicinal reasons. The rest of it is all recreational consumption.
Let's go
if I
belting
was
up
to go and get a license, I wouldn't apply for flowers. I would ask for oils because I know
belting
what I
up
need
to Edinburgh.
medicinally.
Let's see what Veronica says. She said, Russ, honestly, 10 months since I gave back all opioid meds. I get oils.
Superstar.
I have a vape. That's probably the Scottish for vape, but still to use it. So she's got a vape. Veronica's a phenomenal fan of the show, and she's so loyal and great on the Daily Show. We love having her on. But she's so, as I see it, she's got a vape. She has yet to use it. Okay.
She made a comment before. She made a comment before that when she inhales, it actually hits her too hard. So she handles the oils a lot better. Whereas with oils, it's easy to control your dose as well. It's easier to mathematically calculate 1 or 2 drops than it is to time a breath with and calculate how much you're actually inhaling. It's like the idea of blow up a balloon. You blow 3 breaths every time the balloon goes up a different way. Let me just show you
this graph here. So this graph here, this represents how you use it in a vaporizer. Now, the deal is they have different onsets. They have different initial peaks. So if you consume it in combustion in a joint, you get a higher hit straight out of the box. It doesn't last as long. Exactly. It doesn't last as long. So each one of these ways. Now, when you vaporize it or combust it, it goes into your lungs. It's fast acting and it has a powerful hit, but it doesn't last for long. When you use a tincture, it goes through your mouth membrane. It goes into the bloodstream. It takes longer to act, but it has it doesn't go as high. However, when it goes through your mouth, if it goes into your first pass liver, then the THC is converted to hydroxy 11, and that is 20 times more powerful. And edibles, those I don't like at all. They make me very jittery. So everybody is uniquely different about the way they work, and it comes back to that titration. Start slow and go low. And Russ, if you're interested at all, I will be able to get you a prescription. I will be able to get you something that will put you to sleep at the right time when you want it, and you just start slow. You won't get the high effect that you're kind of apprehensive about.
Well, I
You will
am.
get
I don't. I'll be honest. I don't want to be sitting there off my face.
But you won't be.
I'm
You
too
won't be
old.
if
I'm
you
too tired, and I've got a lot to do. I don't.
if you have someone
don't-
like Tim guiding you, okay, and if you go to a company like Access Canna, as opposed to going to a doctor who's uneducated, who has the ability to prescribe you, but not the knowledge to be able to guide you, or if you go to one of these cannabis organizations out there, which are capitalist run organizations, which are created to supply you, not to guide you, maybe you might be left in a situation where you feel not great. However, if you put yourself in the you put yourself in the hands of capable individuals, almost like a guide, a nurturer, someone
yeah,
like
sure.
Tim, someone like Access Canna, who understands the nature of cannabis consumption and also understands the nature of individuals, then what happens is you can be guided and you won't be thrown into the deep end. The issue is, in today's world, is that mentality of better is better. But better is not better. Right is better. And in the cannabis world,
what do you mean
start-
better? What does better is better
So
mean?
the whole idea is like Johnny Walker Blue is better than Southern Comfort, okay? Because it's more expensive. It's better, so it's better.
I
It's not
see what you're
necessarily
saying.
true. Is that if you prefer drinking Southern Comfort to whiskey, Southern Comfort's better. Do you understand? Because it's
No,
personal.
you're talking to a guy who's a member of the Soho Whiskey Club. Of course, I understand.
So
It's the
I'm
whole
throwing
thing.
it
I like
out.
bourbon. I like bourbon. I don't
Do
like
you
whiskey.
know
Or I
what?
like whiskey.
I'm just going to tell you this. We're at this conference on Monday. There are all the doctors there, and then there's regulators, there's doctors, there's whatever, and this is at the very heart of the Royal Society for Medicine, so everybody is very proper and very capable.
Yeah, sure.
And the
Not like
closing
us.
remarks were, "We're all going off to the bar now, and that'll loosen our tongues." And you think, hold on. When I was 20, I used to be a St. Bernard's dog with a little barrel of brandy was
Brandy,
going to
yeah,
be the
yeah.
thing that saved my life. Oh, we've learned that alcohol's really not good for you. We've actually found out that cannabis is really good for you, but you don't make those jokes at a cannabis conference because there is still this kind of stigma attached to it.
Wait,
There
hold
is a
on, hold on.
long
Who
journey
doesn't
to
make
go.
those jokes? I make those jokes.
Oh,
Okay,
absolutely.
I
No,
love those jokes. Okay, just throwing it out there. Come on, guys, let's go get lit. It's fun. It's fun at a cannabis con. So listen, we've got 3 minutes left. What I really want to talk about is I want to talk about what you're doing with the CTA and this idea of greening the high street. You've got 3 minutes, and it's this quest for education. Wherever you seem to be in this industry, you always seem to be trying to educate. And like I said, you've got now 2 minutes left. You might as well give your little
right. So these are all different kinds of vaporizers. There's a multitude of vaporizers. This is what is called a convection vaporizer. Sorry, you take one hit on this and you can put it down and you will not have used all your medication. Remembering you're going to pay for this medication. It's expensive stuff. So you want to make sure you use it effectively. So the CTA, the Cannabis Trades Association, sees that the cannabis economy, we've only spoken about medical cannabis. There is a whole area of hemp that has so much potential. Cannabis, and there was a debate in Parliament about 2 months ago on medical cannabis, and Sir Mike Penning, the guy who runs the all-parliamentary group on medical cannabis, said, I wish cannabis wasn't called cannabis because it's a detrimental word. To me, that is what we've got to change. Cannabis needs to be a word of optimism and change. It is a way that we will change the future. Why? Because it's about sustainability, it's sequestering carbon, it's about replacing all of the fossil fuel oil production processes with naturally grown products that can be made from hemp. We've just got to do it on the scale it used to be done in the 1500s, where you were required to grow it. What does that mean? It means there are raw materials made from cannabis that can go into shops. Those shops are what the high street is losing by the bucket load. In the end, medical cannabis will end up in a dispensary style model. So Russ, when you've got your medical cannabis card, you will be able to go into one of these shops. You'll be able to talk to somebody like me who says, right, what are you actually aiming for? Which set of cannabinoids do you want? You can't smell this, but this smells divine to me. It's really, really amazing, the smell. cannabis. And you say it when it's combusted. It smells disgusting when it's combusted, in my opinion, when it is growing. We didn't even talk about the acid versions, which are before it's decarboxylated.
We're done.
If you use cannabis,
We've got a minute left.
Oh, well, the acid
got 1 minute
version
left.
before you get to they don't get you high, but they still exercise your endocannabinoid system. They're remarkable.
So if you
greening the
remember,
high
we
street
had
is very
talk about
short
acids. Tim, stop for 1 second. Do you remember a few weeks ago we had that lady on? Oh God, I can't remember her name. My mind's gone blank. But she was talking about how she only consumes cannabinoid acids.
Sarah Godfrey, I think you were talking
Sarah
about.
Godfrey, exactly.
Yeah,
She's such a legend.
Thank God Tim was there to save the
Such
day.
a legend. Sarah was incredible. Russ, you're going to get a license?
Anyway, it's been a fabulous show. Tim, thank you so much. I have followed you on Twitter during this show. You can follow me back. Ollie Mammon, as ever, you're a freaking legend. 50th show today. Thank you for all your support. Without you, we are absolutely nowhere. You've been absolutely amazing. Ollie, thank you so much for bringing us this show. And I've loved every second of it. Tim, please come back. We'll be back same time next week. Thursday, 6 o'clock. Until then, try and stay out of trouble, will you?
Be safe, everybody.